If you've ever dealt with an opponent who was really good at turtle and you didn't know how to solve that problem, this video is for you. I'm going to show you one way to unravel that position, and I'm going to show you two ways to attack it. Simple, effective, low risk, high reward. Let's jump in. I'll never forget being a white belt and seeing turtle for the first time and not knowing how to deal with that, and oftentimes falling victim to sneaky attacks from my opponent who was turtled up. So we're going to go through some effective ways to solve this problem. First off, 3/4 Nelson. Now, I really like the 3/4 Nelson because this was something I learned in wrestling and it was always effective. And I found from personal experience that it translates really well to Jiu Jitsu, and I don't see a lot of people using it. So as you can see in this example, my training partner is turtled up and I'm positioning myself, almost prepping for a front headlock. I've got my chest on his upper back and I'm making him carry my weight. I don't want to do him any favors and leave my knees on the ground. I want to make sure he's carrying my weight. Now from here, I'm going to place my left hand on the back of his head, upper neck area. My right hand will then reach in through his armpit, up past his jaw, and grab my wrist almost like a Kimura. This essentially is a Kimura grip, but on the head. Now from here, I'm going to run my legs like a clock, and sometimes people can be confused on which way to run. So if my left hand is on the back of his head, I'm going to run my legs to the left. If my right hand is on the back of his head, I'm going to run my legs to the right. The hand that's on the head always dictates the direction you'll go. As I begin to run my legs or walk my legs in the appropriate direction, I'm using the Kimura grip on the back of his head to push his head down and in the opposite direction that I'm running my legs. There will be a point in this move where it doesn't make any more sense to maintain that Kimura grip on your own wrist. As he hits his tipping point and his body starts to tip over, I then begin to let go of my own wrist and I create a blade with my hand, placing the knuckles of my own hand against the back of his head. I maintain positive pressure on his head with that hand while my hand follows his head through. This is a very powerful torquing maneuver that you can apply to anybody. It's great for small guys, big guys, it doesn't matter. You just want to be careful of each other because it can be pretty uncomfortable. And if you full send it on someone who's not ready for it in practice, it can be considered a mean move. Obviously, in your tournaments, full send this thing. If you're going to be drilling this with people, make sure they don't have neck injuries, but it's really effective. It's really fun to do. It doesn't cost a lot of energy. And if you somehow mess it up, you're not in a bad position. But I will say that I haven't seen anybody be able to fight this. Once you put this thing into motion, it really puts a nice bend in the spine. It torques their head a little bit, and it just becomes almost impossible to fight. So if you're struggling with turtle and you're in the front headlock position, start using the 3/4 Nelson. It's a great solution to the turtle problem. And I just want to take a quick break to give my sponsors, X Martial, a shout out. Not only does X Martial have the highest quality no-gi gear for adults and kids on the market, they also provide workout equipment and training tools, everything from resistance bands to grip work to abdominal work. You name it, they got it. On top of all that, they also have the X Martial Charity Initiative, where they help bullied or underprivileged people get help with their training fees and free gear. You're not gonna find a higher quality company out there. So if you wanna look as good as me and probably even better, get over to xmartial.com, use my code IRONWILL to save yourself some money, and look good while you sharpen your skills. All right, well, I think that covers it. Let's get back to the video. Solution number 2 is a guillotine. Now, a lot of people can feel confused with the guillotine because there are some necessary parts to make this thing work, and we're going to cover that. So as you can see here, while my training partner is in turtle, I've got my chest on his back. I'm making him carry my weight. I then take my right arm and slide that past his jaw line in front of his chest, while my left hand slides up through his armpit. Now my hands meet in the middle around his chest, but I want you to pay attention to how I'm holding my grip. With my right hand, the hand that's going past his jaw, I'm making a blade. My left hand grabs the meat that's just below my pinky on my hand. And I'm showing you this because a lot of people struggle with how the grip is supposed to look. Now that you see what it looks like and where it goes, let's continue this. Now that I have my grip in place, I'm going to very quickly drop to my right knee and post my left leg next to him. I do this so that I can lift his body up, exposing his stomach area. I then take my right shin and very quickly slam that into his waistline as I drop back and kick my left leg up over his hip. Now, one thing that I see new people doing wrong here is that you have to remember your legs are holding your opponent's body in place. If you're not maintaining positive pressure with your legs, if you're not applying some sort of a squeeze, it's very easy for them to solve this, slip out of it, and get to a position where the guillotine really doesn't make sense to hit. So what I'm doing is I'm making sure that right shin that goes across his waist is pressed nice and firm into his waistline. And that left leg that goes over his lower back, I'm biting that heel into his body, creating nice positive pressure that holds his body in place. Now, there are a couple different guillotines, such as no arm in, arm in. I'm showing the arm in right now, just because if you can hit the arm in, you can hit just about any of them. I find that most people have trouble with this one, but it's worth the details. It's worth the effort of learning it. What you're not going to do is just lean back with it, which tends to be an instinctual response, it seems, for people who are just learning this. What I want you to do is side crunch towards the knee that's across his waistline. That almost feels counterintuitive because it feels like you should side crunch the other way. At least for me, it always did. But you're side crunching towards the knee that's placed across his waistline. Now, at the same time, I want you to think about punching his head towards his knees. So essentially curling his head in and down. All at the same time, using my left hand to pull my blade hand or my right hand up nice and tight into his neck. When you combine all of these together, it becomes very tight very quickly for your opponent. And what I found interesting for the guillotine when I was learning it and when I was starting to hit it is that it wasn't one of those submissions that feels like it's there. You almost have to know that it's there through training and experience. And sometimes your opponent will give you a little sign that it's working right, whether they snort or snore a little bit. That obstructed airway breathing is telling you that you're doing a good job. So unlike the north-south choke or the rear naked choke, where it really feels like you're crushing their neck and you can tell that you have that choke in, sometimes the guillotine doesn't always feel like you have it when you do. So try not to give up on it right away. Do the reps, get feedback from your training partner, because this one is worth learning and you can hit it from so many different ways, so many different areas. It's definitely worth the effort in nailing it down. So if you haven't tried this one yet, I recommend doing that. Number 3 is the Peruvian necktie. And although this is one of my most favorite chokes, it was one of the more difficult ones for me to learn just because I was missing 1 to 2 elements of it. A lot of times I would set this up, I'd sit back and their head would pop out. And if that's something that happens to you, we're gonna fix that right now. So as you can see here, again, opponent's in turtle. I'm making him carry my weight with my chest heavy on his back, keeping my knees off the ground. And very similar to the guillotine, I'm gonna take my right hand and feed it past his jawline down to his chest. And my left hand's gonna go through his armpit with my hands meeting in the middle under his chest. And I've seen this one shown with a gable grip, which is great if you can do that. I've always struggled with the gable grip. I don't know that I have the mobility in my elbows to turn my hands enough to get the angle right. So I like to use the same exact grip that I showed in the guillotine. Now from here, once I have the grip established, I like to push my chest down his back. This gives me a little bit more room to sit where I need to sit. Now, as I slide my chest down his back, I'm taking my right leg and stepping that hamstring up over the back of his head. Now, once my hamstring is on the back of his head, what I want to do is sit. And as I'm showing you here in this example, I don't want you to sit straight down. If you sit straight down, most likely this is going to be very easy for your opponent to lift his head up and out and then attack from there. You'll be on your butt and he'll be in a position to pass your guard, not really where you want to be. So instead of sitting straight down, I want you to think about sitting in towards his knees. Now, this is an exaggerated thought process because you're not going to land on his knees, but that's the direction that I want you to go. I want you to sit in, almost like you're landing under his head, essentially. In doing this, you're essentially trapping his body inside the lock that you're creating in a way that he won't be able to pick his head up and out, which is exactly what you want. And when I land on my butt, I'm going to take my left leg up and over his lower back. I don't need to drape my whole entire leg over there. I really just need to get my foot up to help complete this lock. So if you're not flexible, just try to get a foot up there. You don't necessarily need to get your whole entire leg. I will say this though, if you can get your whole leg up there, extra bonus points for you. It's just gonna make this whole thing even tighter. Now, once you're set, the fun part begins. You get to use all your deadlift muscles to pull your hands through his neck. It becomes very tight, very quick. It is one of the strongest chokes that you can do to a person. And as I said, one of my favorites, but It's one of those ones that you want to be careful of with your training partners. You could hurt somebody with this one, so don't full send it. Obviously, tournament mode, go all in, send it. But be good with your training partners, take care of each other. You don't want to break all your toys because you're not going to have anything to play with. And those are 3 simple, effective, fun ways to deal with someone who's good at turtle. I've been using these for years. They've always been reliable moves for me, and I'm sure with enough practice, they can be for you. I like to remind you guys, I'm not the only teacher here. So if you have other maneuvers, other submissions, other techniques that you like to do from this position to solve the turtle problem, drop in the comments because we can all learn from each other. And with that, you know how we like to end them. Sometimes backwards, always forwards. I'll see you in the next one.